Hello everyone. I'm here today to discuss about some things that we face in life, we have been facing. Sometimes do we even know where we are or what we're facing, what is troubling us and how do we go about things? Okay, now to be specific, I would like to talk about loss and grief. Because we have been undergoing losses, we grieve, but sometimes we do not even understand how to go about it. We may not even understand what loss we are undergoing. Okay, fine. What is loss, for instance? Mostly, we take loss to be the pain that comes after death of a loved one, and it's very, very true. It is loss and it's heavy. But is loss only brought about by death? No. There's so many things that bring about loss in our lives. And every human being can be subjected to pain, to loss, either spiritually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and it has its own effects. It has an impact. For example, the first pain, the most felt pain we feel as human beings is the one that is occasioned by death of a loved one. Then there is also loss that is not death related. For example, a broken relationship. Sijui kama tunajua uchungu wa a broken relationship. By the way, hiyo nayo iko na impact yake depending on how far you are into the relationship, and it may not necessarily be a relationship that was maybe marriage. Sometimes it's even before marriage. You are engaged to somebody, you are so much involved. You invested so much in terms of time, energy, expectations. Then all of a sudden, umelan mtu hata hakupendi, whichever way. It could be the lady, it could be the man. Hiyo ni loss. Then you have lost a job that you depended on, a job that you invested so much in. Umechukua tu loan, umelipa nusu, job imeisha. My goodness, sio ni loss. Then hii job ulikuwa unaitegemea sana. For example, you even had company car, the company was taking care of your needs. For example, even paying school fees for your children. It gave you accommodation, it gave you a livelihood. Then hii job imekaa imeisha. Then kuna betrayal ya friendship. You confided so much in somebody, you trusted them so much, ukawambia kila kitu, vitu mingi sana, vitu sensitive, nini, then ukalan umekuwa betrayed. Betrayal actually inaletanga loss kwa sababu si mtu amecheza na trust yako, inakurudishanga nyuma sana, and it also calls for grieving sometimes. Then ulikuwa unaishi pahali, all of a sudden things have changed. For example, we all know what happened during COVID. Okay, not to everybody, but to some people. Some people were forced to change the way they used to live. A lifestyle changed. Job imeisha. You are living in a 5-bedroom house, for example. All of a sudden, your job haiwezi kusustain tena hiyo lifestyle. So what are you supposed to do? You go to a lower standard. It affects you. It affects also children, not only grown-ups. For example, watoto, the parent was paying school fees in a particular standard of school, sasa hana job tena. So you're forced to go to a different level of a school. And I'm not here to say that there's a difference in education, but we know kuna standards. So you are used to a particular way of life, imeisha. Hiyo yote inakuanga ni loss. When there is loss, what follows? We grieve over that loss. But do we really understand how to go about it? Sometimes, unfortunately, we do not know because we do not have so much information on these things. We do not know where to run to, who to turn to, how to even go about it. Sometimes circumstances or situations may not even allow us to grieve. Grieving sometimes it's even, I'm even talking about mourning when somebody dies. There are people who do not mourn correctly because there is no space for that. There may be no time For example, you've lost a loved one, and you have an exam to do next week, immediately after funeral. Now utaifanya hiyo exam. So what do? There are people who have lost a loved one and they are expectant. A baby is to be born 2 days after the funeral, sometimes even during the material day of the funeral. So how do you go about mourning? Sometimes the kind of work that you do, for example, you're a preacher. Everybody thinks you're extraordinary. It's high time we started accepting that we are human beings, we are not superhuman, we are not supernatural. And we also have to understand that even the people we depend on, for example, people who take care of us spiritually, they are also human beings. There comes a time they also need help. But do we even understand that? So when a preacher loses a loved one, when a preacher is in a broken relationship, do we give them time? Do we even know? No. And then them themselves, do they realize that at that time they're also supposed to be mourning, they're supposed to be grieving, they're supposed to step back? In this life, there comes a time when you need to hibernate. Even a counselor like me, there's a time that comes, I also need to step back to get somebody to talk to me, to counsel me. There comes a time when I'm also faced by a loss as a person. I have used myself because, okay, there's so many people who imagine when you're a counselor, unanga shida, you cannot treat yourself. Hata daktari haezi jipeleka kwa kliniki yake aanze kujiambia nini nini, ajifanyie diagnosis, ajifanyie MRI, ajifanyie CT scan, ajifanyie hizo vitu zote. No. Then loss has happened to you. Now, whatever form of loss, and especially loss whereby people will not come to give you support. The only time people will give you support in big numbers is when somebody has died. At least that time, people will come to you, they will console you, they will cry with you, they will do so much for you. But when you have lost a job, do you even want to talk about it? Apparently, when you lose a job, you lose a lot of other things. You lose friends, you lose space, you lose respect, because we are a society where we do not respect people just like that. We respect people based on what they are giving, what you are getting from them. When you still had a job, watu walikuwa wanategemea sana utawalisha, utawalipia school fees, utawasaidia, utawaentertain, utawapigisha sherehe. Sasa, you've lost the job. They are no longer there. You lose friends. But the way hiyo shock yote, it takes you to grieving. But how do you even go about it? So, there are different stages za grief. Now, whatever form of grieving you are in. We umekam hapo, umeinvest kwa relationship several years, you had expectations. Ulikuwa unajua hii ni kitu inakupeleka pahali. Then, all of a sudden, imeisha. You've discovered mtu alikuwa anakucheza. The first thing that comes into your mind is denial. Denial is so natural. Ile ya, I can't believe he can do that to me. I cannot believe she can do this to me. Ni huyu mtu. Are you telling me about, is this, you see, hiyo denial. Yani hii job, nimework for several years. I have given it my all. I even overlooked so many things, including my family. Then, hii job wananifuta saa 9. Kama nimejituma yangu yote, hata nime have to deal na a very difficult client, a very difficult situation. I have done so much for it. Then, all of a sudden, hii job imeisha. Denial ndio ya kwanza. If they have given you a sack letter, you read it again and again, ndio uamini. Then you keep quiet with the story to yourself kwa sababu, first of all, wewe huamini. Bado unataka kujua kama ni ukweli. You keep on calling this person. So you mean to tell me that we are over, nini, hakuna, you see, hiyo yote ni denial. Kuna loss ingine, by the way, hatujaongelelea, and I want to touch on that. Umepeleka mtoto shule, umemlea vizuri, umemuongelesha, you okay as a parent, you've done everything. Then, umepigiwa simu na shule, to be told your child has done ABCD. Of course, bad things. Mtoto wako ako kwa hii mbaya, mtoto wako ako na illegalities, mtoto wako ameiba, mtoto wako amechoma shule. You see these things happen. The first thing that you do is to deny. You don't deny because ati unapenda kukania mtoto wako. Honestly, hii ni situation imekupata off guard. You also can't believe kwa sababu the face that this child gives at home is totally different from what you are being told they have done at school. So denial is very, very natural. But hata kama iko natural, if you live in denial, sasa hiyo inaletanga shida baadaye kwa sababu now you have refused to face reality. Umekataa kuamini mtu amekufa na ni ukweli amekufa. Although you will, even as much as you cannot do it immediately, atiwambia mtu amekufa useme okay sawa. Aya mtoto amefanya ABCD sawa, job imeisha sawa, nyumba imechomeka sawa, no. But you have to mark limits. You do not go overboard. After now denial, sasa umeona ukweli hii kitu imefanyika. Hii job yenyewe atake umeenda 3 days bado hauna hata access, you cannot access it. Ile gari ulikuwa unaendesha ya kampuni imechukuliwa, ujienda na matatu. So unaanza kuface reality, unaanza kuona hii kitu ni ukweli. So you go to anger. You get so angry kwa sababu now how unaona reality imeanza kusink. Hizi vitu zote lazima uziface as a person. You become angry, you don't want to eat, you don't want to sleep, you don't want to do anything. Saa zingine hata hutaki kuoga. It is very, very normal to feel like that. But there, you're not going to live in anger. Remember umetoka kwa denial, ukaona ni ukweli. Sasa ukakuja kwa anger. Sometimes you even start regretting, why did I give it so much trust? Why was I there? Hata sitawahi fanya hivyo tena. After that, now you go to the next emotion, which is bargain. Now you start bargaining. Sometimes you even bargain with God. Aki God ukarudisha huu mtu siku tu mbili. Sitawahi mdanganya tena, sitawahi mkosea tena, nini. God ukikubali tu wanirudishe kwa hii job. Hata nakwanga nafika huko 3 hours before time. And you know it is not possible. Some things we say are not even realistic. God ukanirudisha kwa hii relationship, I will never cheat again. Na tunajua ni uongo. Vitu zingine tu zinafanyikanga tu kwa sababu ni personality ya mtu ama nini. So you start bargaining, you bargain. You are not going to live there kwa sababu first of all, who is listening for you? Who is listening to you? The situation will not change just because you are now remorseful, you are regretting, you have seen your mistakes. It has happened. Whether you bargain, you don't, kuna vitu zingine they are irreversible. Na sasa ndio hapo tunaongelelea. Now after that, you are in denial, ukarudi ukaona ni ukweli. You got angry, ukaona bado nothing is changing. You've bargained to some extent. Sometimes you even embarrass yourself. For example, you've been fired from a company. You keep on going there. You keep on calling the HR. They stop answering your calls. They tell you all sorts of things. You go to the reception area. Now nobody wants to talk to you. Hata kama ulikuwa manager, hata hakuna mtu sasa anakuaddress vile ulikuwa umezoea. Nobody's now bothered. You even went there walking. Hiyo yote haijawaka. So now you go to the fourth one. The fourth one, you become now depressed. Let us not confuse things. We're not talking about the depression that is now the other issue of psychological things or mental issues. We are not talking about that. Sasa hii ni ile depression ya everything now is coming to you together. Hizi emotions zote zimejilete. Reality yote wewe lazima uiface. There are those things you have to do. Haya, kama tuseme where you used to work, they used to cater for your accommodation. All of a sudden, wewe unapaswa kulipa rent. Hiyo kitu itakudepress. Huko umejipanga hivyo. Wewe hujaipeleka gari hata garage. Ujui hata mechanic. You're supposed to know all that. It depresses you. Sasa hii reality iko, mtoto amefukuzwa shule na ni ukweli imethibitika mpaka sometimes there is evidence from CCTV cameras. Sasa uko hapo na yeye itakudepress because first of all, you don't even know how to go about it yourself. Who do you talk to? Who do you turn to? Who do you even tell? Some things you will not even talk about. And hapo mbele tulisema the only pain that where people will come to give you support, hivyo tu hata watu hawakupendi, watu hujaona for so long, ni ile ya death. Kama si ya death, my friend, most of the time you will be on your own. You have nobody to turn to. na hata kama utatani kwa mtu si lazima atakusaidia. Then the final one now is acceptance. And hapa sasa ndio the beginning of healing. Once you accept that the loss is on you, hii relationship imeisha, hata kama nilikuwa nimekaa 5 years nini, now you start accepting, unaona yenyewe ni ukweli. Ni ukweli, so and so has died, they have to be buried. Even as much as it pains, acceptance crowns it all, na inakujanga inalete sasa beginning of the next phase of life, how you're going to face the situation, how you're going to get a solution, how you're going to reach out. My people, my fellow human beings, loss lazima itafanyika kwa hii life. Hakuna vile unaweza ka straight. Most important to know is loss has happened to other people before you reach out to somebody who has been in a similar situation. Sometimes seek God, sometimes seek help from maybe professionals, but itaisha. It depends on how you are going to handle it, how you are going to take everything as a person, as a strong person. Whether you are going to start by being weak, you have to be strong at some point. Anyway, thank you so much for that, and I hope it helps somebody. My name is Nancy Karoki Ndirango. I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm also a mediator, and I like talking to people about life issues. Thank you.